Hello, trading is closed on the 20th of January 2022. Let's do our disclaimer first. This is my trading plan for tomorrow, Friday the 21st. Please remember I can be completely wrong, and all trades should be at your own risk. We looked for the pattern with the early high, which is this, and tomorrow should have the early low. We said unless we gapped under this low, that we should have higher targets, 45, 95, 38 optionally, and 45, 96, 09. Those printed, they're not only targets, they're also resistance areas, and this resistance held. Here's what we said. We said unless we gap and promptly undercut the low, should see higher prices even if we close lower. That turned out to be one of the greatest understatements I've ever made. I come up with these numbers based on looking at prior patterns. It's hard to recall any pattern exactly like this one. This was quite a reversal. This is a gap up from a wall. Typically, these things fill pretty quickly, a day or so, and you find support under the wall. When support fails, it becomes resistance. So we now have resistance at yesterday's low, which is what, 45, 30, 20, but that's 50 points away from here, and futures are already 30 points lower than that, so it doesn't really come into play. This optional target was mentioned in my book, but I didn't realize when I wrote the book how well it worked. It was the first pattern I mentioned in my video in the webinar, so anyone who bought the webinar certainly paid for it several times over today. And this other price target, which was pretty close, is well described in the book. How I came up with that price. We said at the end of the year we had a number of targets. I thought they should print. I must confess they're coming into view a bit quicker than I would have guessed earlier in the day, but here they are. MEJT said this drop would retrace, said this rally would retrace, and now it says this drop would retrace. Just remember, when you're making strong impulsive moves, the chance of the target failing increases. Here's where we are in the pattern. We finally undercut this low, which is what we had to do. That was 44.95.12. We undercut it and closed under it. You have to go under today's close by 1 cent for a confirmation, but as I'm recording this, that doesn't look to be much of a challenge. Tomorrow's pattern has the early low. It could still gap up. We have a higher MEJT target. Unless we gap down smartly, the rules call for it to print. Futures are over 30 handles lower as I'm recording this, so such a gap down is pretty likely. The market blew through support levels, which usually, not always, usually can be counted on to hold. As I understand it, the steep drop came in response to rising tensions over Ukraine. Moves in response to news announcements typically reverse quickly and completely. That's the rule. It's just hard for me to see that happening here. We finally closed under the relevant prior low of 44.95.12. Have to go under that by 0.01 tomorrow for confirmation. The bull moves over. Seems a formality at this point. There's a wall in the close, a much higher target. If somehow we move up smartly, I could explain a decent rally tomorrow, but it would be pretty hard for me to explain it if the whole decline ended here, no matter how much we went up. If we gap down instead, which seems plausible as I write this, I don't really have any nearby targets, and today's crash could take us significantly lower before it ends. Since the end of last year, I've been looking for 2,900 at some point, and I'm going to stick with that, but that doesn't mean we go there in a straight line. But I don't have this decline ending here. I can't explain it. If we gap up, I can explain even 45, 70, 94. But I'm now holding my breath, waiting for that to happen. And these other numbers are all in play. We have a potential for a crash here. These always come from oversold conditions. I just don't think we're oversold enough for this drop to be over. Tomorrow has the early low. Doesn't help matters. And that's today's call.